Hormones of the anterior pituitary system. So my favorite acronym to use to remember all of the hormones of the anterior pituitary system. So again, another name for the anterior pituitary system, you'll see the master gland. So this is responsible for generating all of the specific hormonal responses that are generated throughout the body in the endocrine system. So the best way to remember this, I always do, all the hormones of the endocrine system is, I remember this acronym called FLAT PIG. You remember this? You'll remember all of the hormones. You can add an M to it too, because there's one extra one that really we're not going to really focus too much on. But anyway, so flat pig. What is this random thing? Trust me, it's not random. Everything I do in some cases, most cases, is on purpose. Anyway, bear with me. So, flat pig. Each letter stands for a specific hormone in the anterior pituitary system. Let's start off with FSH and LH. So the F and the L stands for follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. So these two hormones are responsible for gamete formation. Gamete formation and secondary sex characteristics, so for the production of steroid hormones, specifically testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, etc. Okay? So you have follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. A stands for ACTH, adrenocorticotropin releasing hormone. ACTH is responsible for the secretion of cortisol. So what was cortisol? Cortisol was a stress hormone. So when your body secretes specific responses that leads to an increase in inflammation, cortisol is released to serve as an anti-inflammatory. So main role is anti-inflammatory. It has other roles, but again, we'll talk about that later. The T stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. So the target organ of thyroid stimulating hormone is what? The thyroid, right? So the thyroid stimulating hormone is a hormone secreted from the anterior pituitary, which reaches the thyroid gland to secrete and allow for the synthesis of thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay? P, prolactin. So, prolactin, what does that function? So the function of prolactin is milk production, right? So, I always love asking this. Are men able to first of all, do men have prolactin hormone? Now you're thinking, well, yeah, they do. Of course they do. They have prolactin. So can males produce milk? Theoretically, yes. Why not, right? So the reason why you don't majority of the time see it, it does happen. Instances of, for example, of gynecomastia that becomes so severe where your actual ducts in your chest cavity leads to breast development. And now when the prolactin hormone comes in, now you can have actual milk secretion. But the reason why it's very uncommon in males is because they don't have the actual cavity or the structure in the chest, right, in the breast region of the male, it's in order to have a region to secrete the milk. So guys can milk too, if you think about it. Anyway, so finally, you have growth hormone, so GH. So people always ask me, I want to take growth hormone, and they compared it to testosterone or steroids or whatever. I'm telling them growth hormone is a completely different protein, right? It's a protein, first of all, right? It's not a steroid. So testosterone is a steroid, it's a fat. So the mechanism of actual happening is completely different. So growth hormone, for example, has receptors that bind to for example, the cell surface, as we discussed before, whereas steroid hormone have the receptors majority of the time inside the cell. And finally, SM is melanocyte stimulating hormone. Okay? So this is another cell type. They don't really talk too much about it, but helps for the secretion of melanin. What was melanin? Melanin was a pigment that is generated by your skin cells, right? So your integumentary system that allows for the absorption of UV light, right? And so a couple, for example, conditions that can lead to these problems that I want you to really know is basically each abnormality can lead to any kind of problem. So one condition, it's called hypopituitarism, right? So what does that mean? The body secreting very low levels of pituitary hormones, in this case, anterior pituitary. What can happen, so this can be as a result of some kind of surgery, tumor, infection. These can all be a part of this condition, and this leads to the inhibited or decreased secretion of the flat pig hormones, right? So all the hormones of the anterior pituitary, follicular stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, adrenocorticotropin releasing hormone, the thyroid stimulating hormone, prolactin, growth hormone, and finally the melanocyte stimulating hormone. So hypopituitarism, if you ever hear that, which can be results of either or, and there could be multiple others, a lot of environmental factors, this leads to the actual decrease of all of these hormones that I just mentioned.